I'll just comment that this is a massive systems change that is still underway. It is very difficult for me and a number of my colleagues here to vote to continue criminal penalties. This is a health problem, a public health problem. 50 plus years of experience has shown us that the punitive approach does not deter drug use. I am hesitant to criminalize those who are suffering from behavioral health disorders and perhaps even to return to the egregious racial disparities of the war on drugs. However, on balance, this bill builds out a behavioral health infrastructure to intervene in a much more effective and evidence-based fashion with those who are suffering from substance use disorder. And so on balance, I am willing to support this bill. Further remarks? As is the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair Goodman. This bill is really hard for me because I am the only person that I know on this committee that has lived with substance use disorder every day for 45 years now. I was born into a family of people that suffered with substance use disorder, every single person. My father, my mother, my brother, my sister, my aunt, my uncle, my cousins, every single person in my family, outside of my children, have suffered with substance use disorder and been incarcerated. And I think it's bullshit that we have to sit here and stigmatize people like me again and not understand that there are multiple pathways to recovery. It's not just treatment. I was kicked out of treatment after 3 days for throwing my water bottle because I was coming down off meth and I wanted a cigarette. And I had 5 years of clean time that time, this last time, I have 11 and a half years now, and it is a daily chronic disease. I have to do many things every single day to make sure I stay clean. I have to maintain therapy. Therapy works for me now. It wasn't always mental health therapy. It was recovery, social connection. It was treatment. It was Narcotics Anonymous. It's been different things at different times in my life. And this bill doesn't recognize a lot of things, which I really think that peer support and social connection is way more effective than treatment. But we're putting people into this dinosaur era of possibilities and saying, when you complete this treatment, then maybe your record will be vacated and you can go get a job and you can maybe volunteer in your kids' school and rent an apartment, things that I still can't do today because of my criminal record. And so the stigmatization and the criminalization of people that have substance use disorder, when a lot of people actually use drugs recreationally and they don't cause any problems. What we are doing in this bill is targeting people that live outside and that are using on the public bus and criminalizing substance use disorder in a very harmful way. And again, I think we're not following research and science and logic. And in fact, we are again stigmatizing people and leaving them out of employment, housing, volunteering with their kids' school, all those things by giving them a criminal record. So I think it is horrible that we're doing this, and we have to do something, because if not, local jurisdictions, all the fear mongering that has gone on in the last 2 years, people living unhoused outside, using drugs, and the political pressure, local jurisdictions will continue to create a patchwork of policies. And so I will vote for this today, but I will continue to work on it in appropriations and to the floor. And I do think we're going to have to come back and work on it again. Just like when we did all the police reform and you have to make tweaks. We're going to have to make tweaks again next session. And one day we will get to the place where we actually care for people and help them get into recovery and help them stay in recovery and stop the stigma. Thanks.
Thank you for your remarks. Chair recognizes Representative Farivar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all who've been speaking on this. There are pieces of each one that I really resonate with. One of my big concerns with this legislation is I worry that we're not centering the voices of folks with direct lived experience with substance use who've come into contact with the criminal legal system. I think all of you here know that is of the utmost importance for me to make sure that we've got folks with direct lived experience that can tell us what is and isn't working. We assembled a group of folks to think about these issues and come up with recommendations, the SURSAC, and what they recommended was decriminalization, and that's not the direction we're going in this legislation. You know, this really is, I think, as a couple of people have mentioned already. I mean, this is a public health crisis, and I don't believe that incarcerating individuals is the way that we're going to get out of this crisis. You know, our jails and our prisons, they're at capacity. Our law enforcement, they're at capacity, and we're not doing them any favors in this situation. I want to make sure that we are, coming up with an effective way to support folks who are experiencing substance use and make sure that we are opening up law enforcement so they can respond to genuine harm in our communities, and make sure that we're investing in the right things, which to me is treatment and recovery supports. Otherwise, we're not going to interrupt this cycle, as you, ranking member, mentioned earlier, that this is a cycle of incarceration and crisis. And we have to invest in that full spectrum of treatment and recovery supports. As the vice chair mentioned, those recovery supports are going to be critical in this process. And this legislation just doesn't do that. And for those reasons, I'm going to be a no today.
Thank you. Further remarks?